We've just approved a 5-year management plan for the Ascension Island MPA, and that sets out a really comprehensive view of the actions we're going to be taking over the next 5 years. And these are all to address what we think are the major threats to the MPA or the real areas of research we need to do to fill those knowledge gaps. I think we hope the Blue Belt programme would provide the support Ascension needed to really create an evidence-based MPA. And by providing funding for there to be a dedicated marine team on Ascension, I think that's really helped. Most importantly, we need to look outwards. We need to find lots of friends, partners, new ideas that can help us tackle the big threats we face. We've just approved our management plan, and we have really strong support from our local council for the MPA. From our point of view, the next stage now is to build that really wide support amongst people living on Ascension. Probably most crucially, the Blue Belt programme gives us a voice. If you look across all the OTs involved in it, we are protecting a really vast area of ocean now. So it's important we come together in programmes like the Blue Belt to have that really international voice that can make a big difference to how we protect our oceans.
That's been our main highlight, really, is finding new ways to protect our marine environment and actually using them in a practical sense to intercept and detect and track new incursions into the territory from illegal and unregulated fishing. The British Indian Ocean Territory has a marine environment that is very large and very complex, and we, as the administration for that territory, work to ensure that it is managed to the highest international standards. Blue Belt has enabled us to connect with new partners such as academia, using new technologies and new processes to find new ways to protect that marine environment.
So the training and mentoring supplied by the Blue Belt programme has led to a more efficient patrol strategy, and it's led to a centralised data depository for all the biological information and all the information collected by the fisheries personnel to identify high-risk areas.
The Blue Belt programme has supported research that has enabled us to better understand and thus protect the unique environment of biart. Blue Belt has helped us to understand some gaps in our knowledge. For example, whilst the technology was being developed for IUU surveillance, it was found that it could be applied to record species and biodiversity on inaccessible islands, helping us to better understand ecosystem functioning.
We want to reduce the amount of illegal fishing within the territory. Blue Belt will help us achieve that by enabling us to enhance our ability to monitor and detect illegal fishing within the territory and ensure compliance of other activities within the marine environment.
We work very closely through the Blue Belt programme to improve our regulatory framework for fisheries management, working specifically with the MMO. And whilst that's still a work in progress, it's advanced our compliance and enforcement framework in particular, which will benefit the territory immensely. My expectations from the Blue Belt programme were that there would be additional resources that will enable us to conduct research in areas of the overseas territory that were largely unexplored and were considered lacking in data. to improve our knowledge across the entire overseas territory. The highlight for me from the Blue Belt programme so far at South Georgia and South Sandwich Islands has been the 2 research cruises that were conducted in late 2019 to the South Sandwich Islands. This is a very remote part of the world where very few expeditions ever get to go. So having multidisciplinary cruises that provided new information, new data from that region was really exciting. So working closely through Blue Belt with the MMO, we have intensive satellite surveillance across the entire maritime zone of the overseas territory, which provides year-round coverage to combat illegal, unreported and unregulated or IUU fishing in the region. We've been very lucky to secure funds through Blue Belt to provide a scientific echo sounder that will be fitted to our patrol vessel, the Pharos SG. And using this equipment, we'll now be able to get year-round estimates of krill distribution and density. South Georgia is globally recognised for having incredible diversity of wildlife in the marine environment. And South Georgia Government's long-term ambition is to ensure that the future of that wildlife is secure. We see the MPA as a very important part of that.
We were really excited about what the Blue Belt could offer us in terms of additional expertise, the funding and what that means in terms of the additional, the capability that we could do. We could do things that we couldn't have previously afforded. We could use equipment that we couldn't have afforded previously, and also access to overseas experts that we perhaps wouldn't have been able to have used beforehand. My highlight from the Blue Belt programme so far is some of the work we did with the acoustic receivers out on Bonaparte and Cardinal seamounts, which was used in terms of monitoring fish and tuna primarily in terms of their migration and tags to better understand their behaviour and their ecology, and going out to be able to sort of do that science and retrieve that information and then see what it's telling us about the fish was really great. As Sunderlina had our first marine management plan that was drafted and accepted in 2016, and the Blue Belt will help this year with a review of that marine management plan. Having the Blue Belt and the CFAS stock assessment team inputting into a better understanding our tuna as a migratory species and also some of our ground fish like the grouper. So we've used the data that was collected as part of the stock assessment work to inform our fisheries management by really looking at it in terms of the local fleet. So understanding how much we've been catching each year, also how much things like a biomass assessment show that we could catch each year. The work that the Blue Belt's doing is helping us to understand a lot more about that marine environment, but also helping to protect that way of life and those cultural values so that they can be experienced now and by future generations. We didn't have a marine enforcement section before, which has now been created, and that is brought in training from overseas to be able to upskill local counterparts. Blue Belt has also helped us to bring in a more structured licensing system with a logbook-based approach, which has provided us a lot more information about the compliance of our fishery. The Blue Belt's already been great in terms of helping us with our policy legislation development, but also our understanding of fisheries through research. By utilising Blue Belt funds, we've been able to create a new laboratory that is will be world class in terms of what it offers both us and visiting researchers, which it massively increases the scope of the amount of work that we're able to do and the quality of the work.
Blue Belt's been a really big help with their stock assessments because they're quite difficult. We have very limited resources, and again, we're very far away in Tristan da Cunha, and Blue Belt gives us access to expert scientific advice, and quite importantly, it can support us in taking a longer term precautionary approach. It can be very tempting when resources are tight to increase income in the short term, but we have that evidence base and that help from Blue Belt, which supports us and taking a longer term view. It can help us to resist pressure, to extend the fishing season, for example, or to shift quotas from areas in our waters which are less healthy to those that are more healthy, because those kind of shifts would then have an adverse impact on the currently healthy areas. So Bluebelt has been a bit of a godsend in just helping us through and giving us the courage of our convictions to take a sensible and measured approach to our fisheries. In terms of our future ambitions for TRISTAN to CUNHA, it's very much about building ability for future sustainability of the marine environment, but also for the whole island. If we can establish a welcoming and supportive centre for research and development, we can build up local skills, and we can offer Tristanians a secure future for them. They've done so much and made so many sacrifices in helping to establish the Tristan Marine Protected Zone. They deserve to benefit from it as well.